What is going on, Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star guide, and today I'm here with a full build guide for the character that is going to be rerunning in the 3.3 first half, being the Herta. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you over everything you do need to know, including her key and Eidolons. Then I'll be taking you over her best Lightcone options, followed by that will be best relic sets and Planar ornaments, and then Mainstat and Substat recommendations for those relics, and at the very end I will be giving some team ideas. I plan on having a full build guide for every single new and returning character in the 0.3 update. I already have one out for Hyacinth. You are now watching the Herta guide. Soon there will be one for Cypher, and soon there will be one for Aglia. That's all I want to say before I get into the video. If you guys found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new and haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell for future videos like this, along with all the types of style content and guides, and let's get straight into the video. So the Herta is a ice character following the path of erudition. Her basic attack deals ice damage equal to 100% of the Herta's attack to one designated enemy. Her skill deals ice damage equal to 70% of the Herta's attack to one designated enemy and inflicts one stack of interpretation. Deals ice damage equal to 70% of the Herta's attack to targets hit by this instance of skill and the respective adjacent targets, and the effect can repeat 2 times. Her ultimate rearranges the numbers of interpretation stacks on all enemies. Prioritize the transfer of the higher numbers of interpretation stacks to elite level targets and above, then deals ice damage equal to 200% of the Herta's attack to all enemies. When using ultimate, increases the Herta's attack by 80% for 3 turns. After the use, the Herta immediately takes action and gains 1 stack of inspiration. Inspiration can stack up to 4 times, and while having inspiration, will enhance skill to hear me out. So as it does say, if you do have those stacks, it will give her access to enhanced skill instead. And what that enhanced skill does is consumes a stack of inspiration, deals ice damage equal to 80% of the Herta's attack to a designated enemy, and inflicts 1 stack of interpretation. Deals ice damage equal to 80% of the Herta's attack to enemies hit by this instance of skill and the respective adjusted targets, repeating 2 times. And at the very end, deals ice damage equal to 40% of the Herta's attack to all enemies. The talent: when enemy targets enter battle, the Herta inflicts 1 stack of interpretation on them. At the start of each wave, applies 25 stacks of interpretation to a random enemy target, prioritizing elite level targets and above. When the enhanced skill's primary target has interpretation, the multiplier for this damage dealt increases, with each stack granting an increase of 8%/4% on the primary target/other targets respectively. If 2 or more characters follow the path of erudition on the team, each stack grants an additional increase of 8%/4% on the primary/other targets respectively. Interpretation can stack up to 42 times. When using enhanced skill, resets the number of interpretation as stacks on the primary enemy to 1. After the enemy target leaves the field or gets defeated by any unit, interpretation will be transferred, prioritizing transfer to elite enemy targets or above. For technique, after using technique, increases Herta's attack by 60% for the next battle for 2 turns. If there is basic treasures in the current map, can use technique to mark up to 3 of them. After entering battle using technique in simulated or divergent universe, at the start of each wave deals true damage to enemy targets lower than elite level by an amount equal to 99% of the target's max HP, and deals true damage to enemy targets at elite level and above by an amount equal to 30% of their max HP. For her bonus traces, for A2, when ally targets attack, inflicts 1 stack of interpretation on hit enemy targets. After attacking, for every 1 target hit by this attack, Herta will regenerate 3 fixed energy, counting up to a maximum of 5 targets. When using enhanced skill, if the primary target's interpretation stack reaches 42, increases the damage up by the Herta by 50%, lasting until the end of the attack. Her A4, when entering battle, if the team has 2 or more erudition characters, increases all allies crit damage by 80%, and the trace aloofly honest counts at least 3 targets when calculating the number of targets hit. After attacking, applies 1 interpretation stack to the target that has the highest existing interpretation stacks among the hit targets. If the attacker is an erudition character, additionally applies 2 interpretation stacks. And her A6, for every 1 stack of interpretation inflicted on enemy targets, the Herta gains a stack of answer up to 99 stacks. When using ultimate, each answer stack increases the ultimate's damage multiplier by 1%. And finally, for our Eidolons, for E1, when using the enhanced skill, calculates the number of interpretation stacks. When the enhanced skill calculates the number of interpretation stacks, additionally counts 50% of the number of interpretation stacks on the 1 target with the most stacks among the primary target and adjacent targets. When interpretation is reset by the enhanced skill, its stack number is reset to 15 instead. For E2, after the Herta enters battle or uses ultimate, additionally gains a stack of inspiration, and after using enhanced skill, advances the Herta's next action by 35%. For E4, the speed of erudition characters in the team increases by 12%, and her E6, the Herta's Ice Res Pen is increased by 20%. When the number of targets on the field is 3 or more /2/1, ultimate's damage multiplier increases by 140% /250% /400% respectively. Taking a look at the best Lightcone options for the Herta, her best one is going to be her own signature Lightcone, which provides a wearer a 12% increase to crit rate, and when the wearer uses their ultimate, increases the wearer's skill damage and ultimate damage dealt by 60% for 3 turns. After the wearer uses their ultimate, if the ultimate consumes 140 or more energy, will recover 1 skill point. Herta wants to get a lot of crit rate as she has more access to crit damage, especially with their teammates and such, as opposed to crit rate. So this Lightcone providing you 12% increase to crit rate is going to be good. On top of that, it provides a massive damage dealt increase by 60% for skill and ultimate. Fantastic for skill, as the skill is going to be your main source of damage, especially with the enhanced skill, which can hit millions upon millions on its own. But it's also really good that it also increases ultimate damage, because her ultimate also hits very, very hard. And to top it all off, anytime you now use your ultimate, you will get a free skill point back, because the Herta does consume more than 140 energy for her ultimate. And this is really good because the Herta is extremely skill point hungry, because every time she attacks you want to use a skill, so this can definitely help you offset some skill point usages. So with everything being provided for the Herta, with this Lightcone being super strong, is why it's her best option. Another really good option is actually the Battle Pass Lightcone, which after entering battle increases the wearer's damage based on the max energy by 0.2, and a maximum of 160 energy can be taken into account. And at S5 it becomes 0.4. The Herta is also able to make use of this full effect because she has more than 160 energy. So the moment you enter battle, you get the full effect of this Lightcone for just having it on her. So it is just nice free damage you are getting for your Herta, no matter if you're using basic attack, enhanced skill, the normal skill, the ultimate, and so on. Which is why it's actually a very solid option to use. Another good option you can actually use is Jingwan's signature Lightcone, mainly for the first 2 parts it does give, as the last part is related to follow-up attacks and she does not do that. But the first part increases the wearer's crit damage by 36% and increases damage dealt by the wearer's skill and ultimate by 18%. So those 2 are good. As I mentioned, her main source of damage is skill and ultimate, so especially skill getting that 18% increase, and also ultimate that does really good damage. So both of them getting an increase with this is nice, and on top of that she gets a free 36% increase in crit damage at the same time. So anytime you do crit, you're just going to be doing more damage. So if you have a spare Jingwan Lightcone just sitting around, or you're not using him and you're down to give it to her, and you don't have any other better options, you can very much give this to her, as the first part is really good for her. Another good option primarily in Pure Fiction is going to be Knight on the Milky Way, which for every enemy on the field increases the wearer's attack by 9% up to 5 stacks, and when an enemy is inflicted with Weakness Break, the damage dealt by the wearer increases by 30% for 1 turn. In Pure Fiction, you'll always have the full effect, giving you up to a 45% increase to attack for free pretty much, and it's a lot easier to break enemies in Pure Fiction. Even if you kill them with the break, you still break them, so you get the extra damage dealt. It loses its value pretty decently if you don't have the full effect up, but even without the effect, it's 45% attack, so it's noticeable, but you definitely want to have both parts up. The downside is you're not really getting a specific damage increase for skill or ultimate, so it focuses on that more. This is more general buffing instead. It also doesn't provide any crit, but if you do have 5 enemies on the field and you are able to break, it actually becomes a really strong option to use. Another good option is the Genius's Repose Lightcone, which increases the wearer's attack by 16%, and when the wearer defeats an enemy, the wearer's crit damage increases by 24% for 3 turns, and at S5 it becomes a 32% increase to attack with a 48% crit damage increase when defeating an enemy. So a free 32% attack is going to be good for her overall damage, and the Herta will have no problem in any mode just killing an enemy on the side. So it can become a very easy to keep up 48% increase to crit damage, which is going to be great for your damage when you do crit. So it's a very easy to keep up option, and an also pretty strong option to keep up at that, so this Lightcone is another good option to use. Another option is the free-to-play Herta Shop Lightcone, which increases the wearer's attack by 8%, and after using an attack for each enemy target hit, additionally increases attack by 4%. That can stack up to 5 times and last until the end of the next attack. If there's 3 or more targets hit, this unit's speed increases by 8% for 1 turn. And at S5, it's a 12% increase to attack. Each attack hitting an enemy is going to increase it by 8% instead now, and if you do hit 3 enemies, you get a 16% increase in speed. This is usable in every single endgame mode. It's going to be best in Pure Fiction because you always will be able to hit every enemy. Well, not every enemy, but you'll be able to hit enough to get a full effect almost. You do need the enhanced skill or to use the ultimate to get the full effect of the second bit. The first bit is just attack that you're going to be getting for free. And the Herta is always going to be able to hit 3 enemies, so it's a good increase to speed, which can allow you to allocate more stats into other things, specific setups, because now you're able to hit this, but you just want to make sure you act fast enough to get it. And this can also help you hit higher breakpoints if you want to go for that, which is why it's another great option. For the best relic sets for the Herta, her best in slot is going to be the 4-piece of the Scholar set, which 2-piece increases crit rate by 8%, and the 4-piece increases damage dealt by skill and ultimate by 20%, and after using ultimate, additionally increases damage dealt by the next skill by 25%. The 2-piece giving you 8% crit rate is really good. It's going to help you hit the higher amounts of crit rate you do want to have. And the 4-piece straight up increases her main sources of damage, being skill and ultimate, by 20%, just like that. So that's going to be a really nice damage increase, and anytime you do use your ultimate, the next skill you do is going to get a 25% increase to damage dealt as well, which is once again her main source of damage. And on top of that, her ultimate in her base kick gives her another action, so you're able to ultimate, get the buff, and straight up use it right away to get a big hit onto the enemy, which is why for her damage, this is the best in slot you can use. Another solid option is the 4-piece of the Hunter set. 2-piece increases eye damage by 10%, and the 4-piece increases crit damage by 25% for 2 turns after the wearer uses their ultimate. So 2% is going to increase her overall damage as she does ice damage, and the 4-piece is going to give her free 25% crit damage using her ultimate, which you also will be able to feel right away because again, once you do use her ultimate, she gets another turn, so the times you do crit in that instance of skill, and the next instance you'll be dealing 25% increased crit damage that you normally would, which is why it's another solid option you can use, although Scholar is very much better. This next option is going to be extremely specific, but that is running 4-piece Poet set. This is specific because you cannot activate her speed traces, otherwise you will have too much speed. So this is going to be an uncommon setup. 2-piece increases quantum damage, which is useless since she doesn't do quantum damage. 4-piece decreases the wearer's speed by 8%, and before entering battle, if the wearer's speed is lower than 110/95, increases the wearer's crit rate by 20%/32%, and also applies to Memo Sprite. She doesn't have a Memo Sprite, so you ignore that, but she does already have a base speed that if you do decrease it by 8%, she will be below the amount you do need to get the full 32% crit rate. This is going to let you focus less on speed, as you will not need to get any speed rolls, because if you do, it's going to be impossible to use. And since you're getting a big crit rate increase, you can focus on it a bit less to get more attack percent and crit damage and so on. You can also offset it in battle by using stuff like Jade buff, Ron May buff, and so on, as it just has to be having less than 95 speed going into battle. Once you're in battle, you can go over it and nothing will happen. You'll still have the 32% crit rate. But again, this is very specific because you cannot activate her speed traces. You don't want to get speed rolls because if you do, you will not be able to go below 95. And if you're doing the 110 or less, there is practically no point in doing this because that's a whole 12% crit rate you are losing. 20% is still good, but it is best to get the full effect. So if you're in that specific case where you haven't activated her traces and you're interested in this, it can be strong, assuming you do get a really good build out of it. If it doesn't give you a really good build, there is no point. Past that, it is going to be combining 2-piece 2-pieces, so 2-piece Scholar is going to be your most common one, and you combine that with something like 2-piece of the ice set for the ice damage. You can do 2-piece of one of those and do 2-piece attack percent increasing, so Wind Soaring, Hero, Prisoner, Musketeer, and those practically would be your options. So best to just farm a 4-piece Scholar set. If not that, you can use 4-piece ice, and if you are in that very specific scenario, you can use 4-piece Poet, and then if not that, doing 2-piece of one of the ones mentioned. For Planar Ornaments, her best and most consistent one is going to be Izumo, as it does increase the wearer's attack by 12%, and if you have someone else following the same path as the wearer, so in this case Erudition, wearer will gain a 12% increase in crit rate. Crit rate, as I mentioned previously, is very valuable, so getting more crit rate is going to be really good, and on top of that, you're getting a free 12% attack, and you always will be running at least one other Erudition character with the Herta, so it does just become a free 12% increase to crit rate. Another really good option you can use is Rule in Arena. This can actually become better if you don't have a need for the full crit rate that Izumo gives, because this also will provide you 8% crit rate, and once you do have 70% or higher crit rate, which a good build the Herta will always want to have more than that, damage dealt by the basic attack and skill increases by 20%. Basic attack you practically ignore, except the rare cases where you might not have enough skill points so you have to use it. It is going to increase your main source of damage, being skill, by 20%. So a big increase to your skill damage is going to be great, so you can further amplify that damage and can actually outperform Izumo. So if you do get enough crit rate and you have good Rule in Arena pieces, this can actually become her other best in slot. If you are able to at least get 135 speed, which is usually going to be around the amount you would want on the Herta, Glamoth is another good option, which does provide 12% attack, and when the wearer has speed equal to 135/160, wearer can deal 12%/80% more damage. So free 12% attack, and unless you're doing a specific setup with the Herta where you don't want any speed, so the Poet setup, and you aren't able to actually push it up to having more than breakpoint, or you're just doing a base speed the Herta build for some reason. So if you are running her with speed boots and trying to get her to the right set, you get a free 12% damage. Hitting 160 speed on the Herta is pretty unrealistic. There are some setups, especially with Jade, where you can, and if you are using Jade to get that, you can push her up to 160 speed. It becomes that much more powerful, and in those cases, Glamoth can be very, very good as well. For the main stats on the relics, for the body, you want to do primarily crit rate. If you have really good crit rate rolls, or you're doing the poet setup where you just get near 100% crit rate, then you can actually use crit damage, but you'd have to have really good rolls once again or do that specific setup. So in most cases, you will be running crit rate. For the feat, you can do speed to get it to 134 breakpoint. That is going to be the most common, or if you are doing that specific setup again with the poet set, or you are doing a base speed where you have some rolls and then have the Jade buff to bring her to breakpoint, then you can run attack percent B in those scenarios. For the orb, you want to do ice damage, and for the link rope, you want to do attack percent. You can also do energy regen rate for the rope, but it is rare that it will ever outperform attack percent. In cases where you do get a lot of energy out from it, and you get more ultimates from that, giving you more turns to get more of the enhanced skills out. In those cases where you can get a lot more, it can outperform it, but the lack of attack percent rope can be a big damage drop off. So in most cases, attack percent is going to consistently outperform, but energy regen can work. So if you have a setup for it that works good, then you can use it. For the substats, first you want to prioritize speed to get it to 134 or whatever breakpoint you're doing. If you're not doing that and you're doing a base speed build, then you can ignore speed. Past that is your generic crit rate, crit damage, attack percent rolls. Primarily focusing on crit rate, you want to get to as close as 100% as possible. Crit rate is going to be more valuable because she gives herself and her team a lot of crit damage. So the minimum crit rate is 85, getting that around to 95 to closer to 100 is going to be ideal. And then past that, more crit damage and attack percent once again. Now for the team idea / team building options, my account doesn't actually have the Herta, so pretend this mini Herta is actually going to be the Herta. The first slot I'm going to talk about is the second Erudition character. So I will just say now the Herta with regular Herta is a good option to use. It's not the best, but it is still good, especially in pure fiction. But the actual next best Erudition to use, which is her best in slot Erudition character, is going to be Anaxa. Anaxa with his frequent skills, the free skills you get, and good damage output is why he's good. Not too far behind him, or actually in some cases that can outperform, is going to be Jade with their speed setups. Jade herself also does solid damage, but it's mainly for the speed setups and the additional quantum damage and such. She is a fantastic option. If you have neither of those, someone like Serval also does perform very, very well. You could very much use Serval as well. And then also someone like Argenti, building Argenti fast and spamming skill is another good thing. You might run into big skill point issues if you are spamming skill, but with this ultimate especially, you can get a lot of stacks for the Herta and getting energy back and such, which is why Argenti is actually another fantastic option. But for now, I'll just go ahead and put Anaxa back on here as the best one in most cases. The next thought would be your actual port. Ideally, the best one for her is actually going to be Tribi, so Tribi is going to be the best option you could put here. But if you don't have Tribi, you can also sub her out for someone like Robin instead, where right here, so I'm gonna put Robin there. She's also a fantastic option with the Herta. Those two are going to be the best because it actually does buff both Anaxa and the Herta themselves. You can also use someone like Ruan Mei. She's going to be significantly weaker, but you definitely can use her as well. If you want to mainly focus on the Herta, you can sub out the slot for the AoE buffer and run a single target buffer, so you can use someone like RMC, Sunday, and so on. The downside is you won't be able to buff the second Erudition character with running one of these, so let's just go ahead and put you on here. You won't be able to buff the second character, so if you're running Anaxa, Serval, Jade, so on. They mainly become a supercharger, but they lose out a lot of damage because you're not AoE buffing, but rather using this buffer to single-handedly buff the Herta herself. But for this case, I'll go ahead and put Tribi on right here. And the last thought would be your sustain. So the overall best sustain you can use on this team is going to be Fuo, as she does give a big attack percent increase and also energy, but you can just sub out for your best sustain option. So you can use Aventurine, he'll work just fine. You can use Linksha, she'll work just fine as well. You can use someone like Gallagher, he'll work just fine. Whatever best option you have available for the sustain slot will be the way to go. So in this case, I'll just go ahead and put Fuo on. If it's finer, she's very top, already on the team. So you would just kind of want to go something like that when you are building her teams. And yep, that is the full build guide for the Herta. Once again, if you guys found the video helpful, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content and guides. And I'll see you later. Peace out.